Today, I want to talk about an author whose works aren't just novels. They are philosophical expeditions into the darkest corners and brightest heights of human nature. Fyodor Dostoevsky. If his name rings a bell, you might think of long Russian novels, dense philosophical passages, or maybe you recall the titles Crime and Punishment or The Brothers Karamazov vaguely from the internet. But for many, Dostoevsky remains a daunting literary figure, someone you intend to read one day. In this video, I want to talk about why reading Dostoevsky is absolutely worth your time. Reading Dostoevsky isn't just a literary exercise, it's a transformative experience. His novels challenge our moral assumptions, deepen our empathy for others, and ultimately broaden our perspectives of what it means to be human. And he's not just telling stories, he's dissecting the nature of his characters. To appreciate Dostoevsky's power, it helps to understand the world he lived in. 19th century Russia was a place of deep social upheaval, where old feudal systems were starting to crack under pressure. Serfdom had just been abolished, new political ideas burst through the salons and cafes of St. Petersburg, and a generation of young Russians grappled with existential questions. Should they embrace Western liberalism or cling to traditional religious and national identities? What does justice mean in a system that often seems unjust? These tensions were not background noise for Dostoevsky. They were the very air he breathed, and they seeped into every page he wrote in his novels. Dostoevsky's own life was equally turbulent. He was arrested as a young man for participating in a radical literary circle and nearly executed before being sent to a Siberian prison camp. That brush with death and the suffering he witnessed in prison would shape his spiritual and moral outlook. Later, personal tragedies, financial hardship, the loss of children, struggles with epilepsy deepened his understanding of pain, faith, and redemption. And this wasn't just theory to him, it was a lived experience. When you read Dostoevsky, you are reading the work of a man who knew suffering and sought meaning within it. Dostoevsky's characters aren't just literary constructs. They feel like real people with intricate inner lives. Take Crime and Punishment. The protagonist, Raskolnikov, is a young, impoverished ex-student who commits a brutal crime, murdering a pawnbroker, partly out of desperation and partly as a twisted philosophical experiment. Over the course of the novel, we follow his psychological unraveling. It's not a whodunit. We know from the start who did it. It's a why did he do it and how does he live with it story. Dostoevsky forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. Is evil born from poverty, from ideology, or from some darker place in human soul? By delving into Raskolnikov's mind, we face our own moral ambiguities. We ask, under different circumstances, who might we become? We live in a world that encourages quick judgments and simple moral categories. Us versus them, good versus evil. But Dostoevsky's novels resist that simplicity. His characters often do terrible things, yet we still find them strangely sympathetic and understandable. In The Brothers Karamazov, the Karamazov family drama unfolds around parental neglect, greed, sensuality, and murder. But within these tangled relationships, characters debate religious faith, free will, responsibility, and the nature of justice. Dostoevsky's moral universe isn't neat or reassuring. Instead, it mirrors our own internal conflicts. The tension between selfish desires and moral duty, between reason and faith, and between love and hate. When you read Dostoevsky, you gain a capacity to hold multiple truths at once. It trains you to understand that people are more than their worst actions. Unlike a lot of authors who might only hint at philosophical subtexts, Dostoevsky tackles the big questions head on. Does God exist? If so, then why does he allow suffering? Is faith possible in a modern, rational world? What is the purpose of life if we are free to do anything? His novels are philosophical dialogues dressed up as stories. The characters argue, sometimes violently, about ethics and belief. Reading these passages is like being part of the world's oldest debate club. You're not just reading passively, you are thinking actively. When you read Dostoevsky, you enter a centuries-old conversation that still resonates today. One of the most transformative gifts Dostoevsky offers is the cultivation of empathy. He recognizes that suffering is universal. It cuts across class, nationality, and time. By showing us characters who suffer deeply, he encourages us to extend compassion. Even if you disagree with the character's choices, you start to see their predicament, their pain, their confusion. And from that understanding springs empathy. In a world increasingly divided, reading Dostoevsky's nuanced portrayals of human suffering can remind us that people are layered, and that understanding often precedes judgment. You might wonder why read a 19th century Russian novelist when we have contemporary writers who speak our language. Well, here's the thing. Human nature hasn't changed as much as we think. Ambition, jealousy, pride, love, despair, and the yearning for meaning. All of these remain at the core of our existence. Dostoevsky's character, living in a completely different time and place, still feels startlingly modern in their emotional complexity. In an era where technology accelerates everything and we often skim headlines rather than reflect deeply, reading Dostoevsky slows us down and challenges us to think, to feel, and to grapple with the life's most enduring questions. So, here's the deal. Dostoevsky is not easy to read. His novels demand patience, they are dense to read, and they don't hand out simple answers. But if you're willing to put in the effort, the rewards are immense. You come out on the other side with a richer understanding of human nature, a nuanced view of morality, and a deeper capacity for empathy. You will sharpen your philosophical wits, confront your deepest uncertainties, and ultimately become a more reflective person. And that's why everyone should give Dostoevsky a try. That's all for this video. If you pick up a Dostoevsky book because of me, I would be so happy to know that. You can drop a comment on this video or text me on Instagram, and I would be happy to reply to you. Thank you, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye.